And conversely, if you didn't want no daggone children, you should have wrapped it up in the first place.
Whoa, skirt, put on the brakes. Hey, Robbie, take it back. We're gonna give it a proper intro and put some information about the issue. Then we'll get back to this whole community response type stuff. All right, sound good?
Because the greatest love of all inside of me, yeah. Sexy chocolate. Yeah.
I don't presume to be able to answer these kinds of theological questions. What I do know is that abortion is a moral issue, that it's one that families struggle with all the time, and that in wrestling with those issues, I don't think that the government criminalizing the choices that families make is the best answer for reducing abortions.
Start with the benefit of the doubt argument. Basically, they are saying this may or may not be a child, therefore it's all right to destroy it. And if we don't know when life begins, then we should not tolerate abortion because it may be the ticket of human life. That's the benefit of the doubt argument. Then you get to this. You're a hunter and you're in the bush and you just see something move a little bit. Like if a bush kind of does this, but you can't see what it is, do you shoot at it or do you wait until you know what it is? You wait till you know what it is. You give it the benefit of the doubt.
We can sit here and debate till we're blue in the face about a woman's right to choose, but let's not lose focus on the complexity of the issue. I mean, let's just set it all on the table. This is an issue about inconsistent association. We don't live in a world where we embrace potential. If that were true, there'd be no minorities.
I wanted to do this short documentary primarily to get a better understanding, or insight rather, on the controversies surrounding abortion rights. I wanted to examine not only the situation within the scopes of my knowledge, but also within the scopes of my community, family, peers, and authorities. I understand that this is an issue that will not be solved overnight, nor will the polarities of opinions shift. We must, however, maintain great responsibility while agreeing to disagree.
There are many who say that this bill is abortion on demand. I submit that it is not. I submit that we have abortion on demand in the state of New York right now. Any woman that wants an abortion can get one. If she has $25, she has it done here under the most abominable circumstances, and regretfully, this is happening more often than you or I like to admit.
I had hoped that this would never come to pass. I fully appreciate that this is the termination of my political career. But, Mr. Speaker, what's the use of getting elected or re-elected if you don't stand for something? I therefore request you, Mr. Speaker, to change my negative vote to an affirmative vote.
The New York State Assembly passed an abortion law, making it entirely a decision to be made by a woman and her doctor. There are no other requirements.
Before we can have any discussion on abortion, it would probably be in our best interest to define the word itself.
You got to help us with this, because I can't do this by myself.
Webster defines the word, Online Webster rather, defines the word abortion as the termination of pregnancy after, accompanied by, resulting in, or closely followed by the death of the embryo or fetus. I thought this was rather interesting, and here's why. While it may be obvious to some as to what an abortion is, there are people like me, people who consider themselves of, somewhat average intelligence. disassociate themselves from the coexistence of abortion and embryo or fetal death. Many of us are structured with the notion that abortion is death, which is not the case. Webster implies or states that death and abortion are almost as two separate entities in correlation. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I think in order for us to even start on the discussion of abortion rights, we should in fact examine the context of that era in order to get a better understanding of the direction the country was facing.
In 1971, the country was in its first digital age stage. The country was introduced to various new conveniences and entertainment.
Magnavox presents Odyssey, the electronic game of the future. Odyssey easily attaches to any brand TV, black and white or color, to create a closed-circuit electronic playground. Odyssey gives you all the exciting action of hockey and 11 other challenging play and learning games for the entire family.
We're gonna keep that in there.
The VCR was introduced to homes, while the NASDAQ stock markets gave investors better investment strategies. Federal Expresses started, and Amtrak train stations would open its doors to better serve transportation. While the courts closed doors on notorious Charles Manson and company that struck fear in the nation with death sentences, Walt Disney opened its doors as a premier family resort. In 1972, we saw the country strengthening itself, advancing against inequality and injustice with massive anti-war demonstrating, along with the passing of the Equal Rights Amendment for sex equality.
This is the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite.
Good evening. In a landmark ruling, the Supreme Court today legalized abortions. The majority in cases from Texas and Georgia said that the decision to end a pregnancy during the first 3 months belongs to the woman and her doctor, not the government.
How in the world did such a conservative justice write this incredibly activist liberal opinion in Roe? Well, if you go back and read the opinion, it doesn't read as some sort of charter of feminist rights. It reads as a charter of doctors' rights.
There are a lot of people like myself at one point in time in this abortion era that reasoned out the important factor in the Roe versus Wade decisive vote, rather than the decision falling from the activism of women's rights. It was more influenced by the need to separate the state from the medical community. Some felt that it wasn't in our country's best interest to allow politicians to, with all due respect, play doctor.
Hey, brother, I'm a doctor.
You're a doctor.
Fucking right, I'm a doctor. I use myself.
There is actually a deeper history in abortion procedures and doctor-patient relationship.
Until the mid-1800s, abortions were legal and available in the United States. Both the state and the church permitted abortions if they occurred before quickening, when the mother first perceived fetal movement. In 1847, the newly formed American Medical Association began a campaign to professionalize medicine, outlawing what it called quackery. Included in the ban were midwives and herbalists. Protestant and Catholic churches joined the medical establishment in expressing their condemnation. Legislation restricting abortion continued to spread, and by the turn of the century, both birth control and abortion were illegal in most states. If a woman needed medical attention after a botched abortion, she faced a dangerous situation. Even though infected and bleeding, she was often required to testify against the person who performed the abortion before she could receive medical care. From the late 1800s through 1973, at least 500,000 clandestine illegal abortions were taking place each year. Some women found safe operations, but most faced the back alleys.